Hi there, Alex Marland, Jaroslawski Chair in Trust and Political Leadership in the Department of Politics here at Acadia University in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. And I'm joined by Beatrice Wayne, who's the Director of Research and Policy at the Samara Centre for Democracy in Toronto. Hey, Beatrice, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Listen, thanks for taking a moment to chat with me. And today I kind of want to go over a couple of specific readings that the Samara Centre has created. And so, as you know, I am a huge supporter of what the Samara Centre does, whether it's, books like these or other things that I use for my own research. Uh, the kind of work that the Samara Centre does, I can't say strongly enough how important it is to somebody like me trying to understand representative democracy, responsible government, what it means to have a democracy in Canada at all. In fact, comes right down to the Samara Centre. Okay, so what I want to do today is really highlight a couple of readings, resources that are available on the Samara Centre's website that over the years I've found fairly useful that I just think is worth having a conversation about. So one of them is called Flip the Script, Reclaiming the Legislature to Reinvigorate Representative Democracy. And the other one is called Beyond the Barbeque, Reimagining Constituency Work for Local Democratic Engagement. Those particular works, one really talks about, work based on talking to MPs and others, what can be done to improve the work that's done in the legislature, in the House of Commons, or for that matter, we could also extend that to provincial legislatures. And two, what can be done so that people can be even stronger constituency representatives when they're not in the capital city, when they're not in the legislative chamber. So let's just have a chat about that. Off the top of your head, when you think about what kinds of things have you heard, have you learned that parliamentarians can do to be even stronger legislators?
I think that what I've heard just over the course of the MP exit interviews, hearing from different MPs, very different experiences, very different points of view, but a theme that really comes out is a desire for time, resources to deliberate, to consider issues closely, and to share ideas across party lines. And I think that's one of the reasons why in Flip the Script, there is a lot of emphasis on the importance of committee work because it is a place for MPs that MPs could be backbenchers who don't have hold cabinet positions, have strong positions of power, places where they, if they're empowered to, can make a difference, can come across party lines and to make some serious recommendations that could inform legislation in a positive way. That's not how it's really working at the moment, but it's a place where there's a lot of possibility, I think.
So, a parliamentary committee, the idea behind it is that you are going to take people away from the theater of question period and all these things and get people in a room and from different political parties. They can sit down and they can, look at a draft bill and they can say, okay, here's all these details, and they can have a good conversation about it and hopefully reach some sort of consensus about how to make proposed amendments, etc. But I would point out that even since your research was done not that long ago, things have been evolving because of social media, because of the presence of cameras in these committee meetings. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've heard from former MPs is that what they liked about committee work is getting outside of the theater. But now it seems that the theater has been brought to committee work. So now some of that space for quiet deliberation, to really explore cross-partisan friendships is now being eroded. Something that we've heard from a number of former MPs is that they actually have friendships across parties, but they have to hide them. And that when they're in question period, they perform an animosity that then when they leave the House of Commons, they put away and they can be friends. And now, and formerly, committee work was a place where they could actually get into substance of policy and legislation issues and look for win-win solutions that would all parties could agree on. And now that is becoming one more theater where you can't actually be honest across party friendships and you can't authentically look for win-win solutions because it's all about party politics.
So I'm going to answer my own question in a second, so then I'll pass it over to you. Let's come up with a couple of ways that parliamentarians can work together across party lines. So here's a couple that MPs and others have told me over the years. One is they form human connections in the moments before they're doing interviews on TV. So on TV, they're all sort of nipping at each other, but while they're waiting for it to go on, they start talking about, they have teenagers, somebody has an elderly parent, they maybe share, they have common interests in pets or whatever. And it's that ability to make friendship and realize this person may be with a different political party, but they're still a human being. And we actually have far more in common than we don't. Another thing which I've been told is when parliamentarians travel together, all the more so when they travel out of the country. So I know that these are often junkets, they cost money. Why would we send people far away? But when somebody leaves the country together and they're somewhere else, they're all of a sudden, they are all known as Canadians. And that's what unifies them. And all of a sudden now, they don't have that sense of, oh, I have to behave this way because I'm with a particular party. No, you are all Canadians in those moments. Based on what you've seen, what are some other ways that parliamentarians can work across party lines?
It's funny that you say that about travel because we very much heard that as well, particularly some MPs who have to travel from very far away to get to their constituencies back. Sharing a constant airplane with somebody from another political party that can really forge strong relationships. But I think the issue is that there aren't very many of these spaces which are outside, and particularly um, party oversight. And then I think that's one of the things we've found with committees, where even when in committees, having a parliamentary secretary there to sort of watch and report back has a real chilling effect on these cross-party friendships.
Yeah, that makes me think of something else that has really evolved, and it's this thing, right? This device. Because what has happened is now, even if you go out for a meal with somebody from another political party, you have no idea if somebody's going to take a photograph of you, stick it up on social media and say, oh, they're conspiring. What are they doing? And it's just, we live in a world where somehow people in other parties are enemies.
I think it's a real issue, and I think it does mistake. I think that there is a media appetite for fostering unveiling these friendships in a way that could be seen as nefarious. But in fact, I think it's mistaking a appetite that we see in political research that in fact Canadians would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, listen, COVID-19 was quite something. One of the rare moments where we saw cross-party consensus for a sustained period of time was right in March 2020.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everybody was like, this is an emergency. We have to deal with this. And that's a common theme, that you'll find that if there's like a natural disaster, if there's war, if there's some sort of health pandemic like we saw in March 2020 and beyond, all of a sudden, it's like not acceptable anymore people won't put up with the fact that you are trying to stay within your party and you have to work with each other. And it's not that I want more COVID, but it certainly tells us that it is possible, right? That they can do it. And for whatever reason, they're not.
One thing I really like about our podcast, Humans of the House, is that it highlights some of these moments and also highlights how they could be effective. So Kennedy Stewart talks about his private member's bill, where he was able to get e-petitions available in Canada. So no longer people had to hand sign petitions. You could now do them electronically and bring more issues from the people to be read in the House of Commons. And that was only possible with bipartisan support that he got working with other parties. But if we see it purely from a party point of view, there wasn't any particular benefit to one party or another, but it was good for Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to go out on an election campaign trail and say, hey, we're the party that brought in e-petitions. Vote for us, right? But it's exactly the kind of thing you would hope that parliamentarians over time are able to move forward on. Let's think about parliamentarians now when they are away from the legislature. And, especially in some of the provinces, they don't meet very often. Most of the time is away from the legislature. And in Ottawa, they certainly meet far more often. Um, Talk to us about, what kinds of things, based on Samara Centre's research, that we could do to make things even better about uh, how our representatives are representing us.
I think we've seen over the course of time increase in constituency work, and particularly an increase of caseloads for MPs and what their offices, particularly their staff, are dealing with. Um, and I think the issue is that it's one thing. It is actually a thing that many MPs really enjoy about their job because it connects them to their communities back home and the people who they're really perhaps got into politics to work for. But I think the issue is many of the things that they're dealing with on a case workload would be better dealt with systemically. It be dealt with through legislation that they could be focusing on in the House of Commons. It's not to say constituency work isn't important, but there are a lot of ways to make it more effective. One of the ways that we've talked about in the Samara Centre is centralizing it, having permanent constituency offices, and creating civic hubs so that there are spaces perhaps where constituency offices are located close to Service Canada's, located close to provincial MPP or MLA offices, um, municipal services. So people who are going to who have cases that connect to other public service that they need will have a place to really get the help from government that they're looking for. And so the MP's office themselves isn't overburdened. And I think the reason why that's so important, why that's so crucial, is because there are much more robust ways of public engagement that the MP's offices could be engaging in right now. We call the report "We Rock Beyond the Barbecue" because right now this is what MPs are doing. They're going to so many events for 20 minutes, meeting people, shaking hands, and there is some value in that. But I think it's really hard to um, go up to your MP at a barbecue and say, I have these concerns about these foreign policy issues. Can you talk to me about them right now? That's not the time or space for it. It's very intimidating, I think, for the public to approach an MP and talk about an issue that they care about in a setting like that. Um, and there aren't really any opportunities for really deep, sustained community engagement, just going from function to function. If there's less onus on the MP to have to deal with a really, really large caseload, there could be more opportunities to engage in new forms of public engagement, such as citizens panels, citizens assemblies, participatory budgeting, participatory policymaking, exploring new technologies around, gathering public feedback. There are really exciting ways for MPs to interact with their community, but right now they don't have a lot of time and space for that.
Yeah, and a lot of it is because over time, government has become so much bigger. And so it's more complex, and people also expect things to be fixed right away. It used to be a time that you used to write a letter if you were concerned about something, and you have to wait till you got it back. Now, you might have an electronic device. You're kind of wondering, well, they haven't gotten back to me, and it's been 10 minutes. So even over time, what has happened? There used to be a time where MPs relied on their spouses as constituency workers to help them out. And then they got more resources. And then there was a time that MPs were in Ottawa and two MPs' offices had to share one secretary who assisted both of them. Now we're looking at 4 or 5 staff members per MP. It's usually less than that at the provincial level. And it just really speaks to the volume of calls and inquiries, the need for help that people have with, could be employment insurance, it could be trying to get passports, and also a lot of the time, people are calling the wrong office. They're calling the MP's office for help about something that's at the provincial level or the municipal level or something else, and they're having to get rerouted. And so, in behind the scenes, and staff in one level are dealing with staff, their counterparts in another level, maybe the wrong electoral district. They didn't know who their MP was. So there's a lot of rooting that goes on in trying to deal with all this. And so I can only imagine how hard it must be to be an MP dealing with all this constituency casework and having to get to barbecues to shake hands.
Absolutely. It's one of the key things that MPs say is that they are overwhelmed by that, and that um, they want to be supporting the community in this way, but they don't feel in many cases that they have the time and resources to do it, and it leads to a lot of burnout. And we hear a lot of MPs, particularly, I think we can think about how the conditions of work there affect who runs for office, because an MP with a young family, that is a huge time commitment. If you're in Ottawa during the week and you fly back and then you have to spend the weekend shaking hands at different events, it's really hard on an MP with a young family to sustain those working conditions.
Yeah, and what a difference if you like happen to live in the sort of Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal corridor, and you can potentially drive home, versus if you happen to be up in northern Canada, out in, maybe you're in Labrador, maybe you're in part of British Columbia, and you have this long distance, or it could be, somewhere in Manitoba. Like, you have a long way to go just to be able to get home. And then when you do, you need to show your face. You need people to see that you're there. And so remote voting is something that has emerged, that a lot of people are big fans of. There are other people who say remote voting actually creates a problem, because now you're not forming those human relationships with people that are so important in politics. You can't just be somebody who is just voting digitally. You need to be able to talk to a minister and form a relationship and advocate for your constituents. So the world is evolving.
It certainly is. And that's it, moving towards sort of hybrid proceedings, taking the seriousness of finding new and different and evolving ways to allow space for those human connections and those interactions is a really crucial part of it.
Well, Beatrice, I have no question that the Samara Centre for Democracy is going to be right on top of that. So, as you know, I'm a big fan of the work that you all do. So thank you for everything you're doing. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
It was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.